Okay, so welcome again to Sanuces Rules, Skills, and Drills with our Touch and Go interview series. Today we have a special guest, the one and only, my friend, Grandmaster Veronica Walker from Miami, Florida. Let's give it up. How are you, Grandmaster?
I am fine.
Very good. Who I hear a voice next to you. Who's that handsome young man sitting next to you?
That would be Master Corey Tucker.
I'm a slide in. Just real fast.
What's up? What's up, Professor? How are you?
Hey, Professor. I'm good, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, Grandmaster, this interview is about Sanuces Rule and Dr. Moses Powell and you. We want to share with the new up-and-coming students, the potential Shehans and professors for the future. We want them to hear from someone who was taught and trained directly by Dr. Moses Powell himself in the 70s, 80s, because a lot of people are just joining on to Sanuces. New people who just joined in 2010, 2015, last year. They don't really know what the history of Sanuces is. They don't know your history. So we want to talk to the women that are in the martial arts now. It's a lot of women, Grandmaster, that look up to you, who want to hear from you. Trust me. So today's interview is dedicated to the women and the new students of Sanuces. So my first simple question is this. When did you first come into the martial arts? Also, when did you first meet Dr. Moses Powell? And how were the classes and some of the drills and stuff that he took you through?
So that's three questions in one.
Yes, ma'am. Three questions in one.
How you doing, Professor James?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed. Listen, this is a blessing because, you know, not everybody can connect the dots from the founder to the system to, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure you'll correct me, the first woman black belt in Sanuces? Well,
no.
Okay, well,
no.
we'll deal with that. We're going to deal with that. But I tell you what, you're the first Grandmaster I know in Sanuces as a woman. And I met you when you were, I think, 54 years old. And you did a form. You did all 9 pair forms as one form to music. And you weren't even tired. And I can't even do that today. So we're going to deal with all of that. But first, let's talk about how you became a martial artist and how you first met Dr. Moses Powell. Tell us a story.
What year was that? What year was that?
That was in 1971.
Wow. Wow.
I passed by the school on Atlantic Avenue, and I saw a class going on. So I said, dang, let me stop in here and see what this is all about. So when I got inside, I sat down and watched as the black belts on the stage were working out. And I saw this big guy named, when I found out, was Dr. Moses Powell. And he was moving the techniques so swiftly, you might have thought he was a butterfly. Wow. He was throwing belts from left to right as they were coming and attacking. And I was totally awed at what I saw.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but I decided to say to him, what I said to myself was, dang, I'd sure like to learn this and come to this school with this teacher.
Right.
I've been to some place called Joe Mackey. I've been to some place called Nisi Go, and I've been to another Nisi school and seen 3 different masters.
Right.
But they touch this. Can't touch this.
Well, let me ask you this. The martial arts, you know, James Brown had a song back in the day called It's a Man's World, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. I know you're familiar with that song, right?
I most certainly am.
Okay. So tell us, how in the world, as a woman, how did you survive in a crazy man's martial arts? Now, trust me, Dr. Moses Powell was a gangster. He was like back in the day in the nation, a lot of the brothers who went to jail for murder, bank robbery, all the criminals, the cutthroats, when they came into the nation, Elijah Muhammad taught them and refined them, reformed them, and made them respectable human beings. Doc had a reputation for training and teaching and having a lot of students that were from the streets, that were gangsters and cutthroats. How in the world did you survive as a woman in that man's martial arts? How did you do that? The women want to know.
Well, I was proficient at what I learned. And I knew if I trained with the guys, I would know how to handle the guys in the street if I ever was attacked. So that's what it was about. And I didn't want them to treat me any differently. I wanted to come at me like it's real.
Gotcha.
And they did.
Brother, my brother, as a
Yes,
kid, now she said 1971, so that means I was 2. Okay. So as a kid on the floor I got on at 5, I believe, 4 or 5. And you see your mom coming downstairs with busted lip or whatever. It was real for her. It was. I saw it. I witnessed.
It was.
Yes, sir.
There was a black belt there named Robert. They called him Sugar.
Robert Crossing.
Robert Crossing.
Yes.
And that guy, he did not play. He didn't care who you was.
Right.
He'd lock your fists up, throw you down. I got thrown to that mat many times. When the first time I hit the mat, blew my mind. I never felt so hard.
Right.
But after I had to land through the Sanuces system,
Right.
I overcame all of that.
Yes, ma'am. Well, let me ask you this. Were there any other women in the class with you? And if there were women in the class with you, are they still around today? Are they still training, or did they just come in and leave?
Well, there was 2 women there. One was Janice, that I knew.
Right,
And
I know
one,
Janice, right.
and one was Alberta.
Heard of her.
She was a black belt. And I believe she was 3rd degree black belt under Dr. Powell at that time.
Right.
So I got there, I said to myself that I want to be as good as or better than. So I chose the latter. And I did become better than.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So
yes,
they eventually stopped training.
Right.
And I continued.
Gotcha.
Till
Let
this
me
day.
ask you this. At any time in the 70s, did Doc, when you first became a black belt, did Doc put you out front to teach any classes, or were you just in the ranks with the men as a student?
No, I was just in the ranks right then for a while.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I bet, may I?
Go ahead, sir.
Horse stance many a times in push-up position for a very long time because my mom, Grandmaster Veronica, was tough on us in the kids class.
Yes.
And
She's still tough, I heard.
Say that again, brother?
I said she's still tough, I heard.
Yeah, nothing like that.
I've sold up a lot, but back then I did not play. And when I did finally taught classes, they knew that they were in a class and they thought it was a guy that was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am. You know, Grandmaster Veronica, one thing I grew to learn about you, and a lot of people may not know, some people are a little afraid of you because you are a no-nonsense person, a no-nonsense martial artist, and you say what you mean, and you mean what you say, and you don't bite your tongue. That I know about you. So,
yeah.
how how did you deal with the men who didn't necessarily look at you as a warrior? They just looked at you as a girl, and they would be able to manipulate you. Did they try to take advantage of you? Did they try to bully you? How was it? Because we know that you say what you mean and you don't take no mess. So how did you deal with that in class?
Well, actually, the guys that were in my class were taught by a man that did not allow anybody to be treated differently.
That's beautiful.
Man, didn't matter.
Beautiful.
So I didn't have a problem.
Yes, ma'am. Very good. Very good.
Most of the guys, which was just about all of them, we were tight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you name
Tight.
some of the men that were in the class that we may know of today? Some of them that are still around. Can you name a few? You already mentioned Robert Sugaroo. He was there. Who else was in the class?
Oh, what's his name? John Davis, right?
Yeah, Little John.
Little John Davis.
Okay, right.
And I said, Robert Sugar, I'm trying to remember. One guy's name was Ronald Carter. You probably don't know him.
Jimmy.
But I don't, what's the, Pete.
Yeah.
You know Pete?
What about, was it Urban in your class? Professor Urban was in your class, right?
Yeah. But
Okay.
Pete was Doc's right-hand man, and you don't know Pete?
No.
That's the one that's getting locked up. Yes.
Pete.
Um,
That's all I can remember. We talking so long ago, 15 years or so.
Right. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Who were your mentors? Who were some of the people in the martial arts that helped you overcome obstacles, helped you along the way? Name some people that was there that like were instrumental in helping you learn Sanuces, and are they around today?
Well, the only one I think is around today is Little John.
Okay.
Yes.
Still out there.
Oh, Sugar's still out there. Robert Crossing is still out
Yes, ma'am.
there. But Little John Davis, I tell you, I think I got my sternness from him because he didn't take no mess off nobody. And he didn't care whether you're a man, woman, or child. So I probably got his demeanor instilled in me.
Wow. So wow, that's interesting because you're right. Little John Davis, he don't take no mess, hardcore, strong, powerful, and you're saying that he was that way with you, and that's probably why you're that way with your students.
Probably he locked,
Wow.
and I tell you, a wrist lock, man, you knew you were in a wrist lock. So I learned all locks and breaks, a lot of them from him.
Great.
Wow.
That's great. Question. Peer forms, and I'm glad Corey's here. How was it, Grandmaster Veronica, to learn the peer forms from Doc, and what do the peer forms mean to you, and what are you doing with the peer forms today?
Well, the first thing I asked Doc is, where do peer forms come from? How did that happen?
Okay.
What he said was those were his creative street fights that he had gotten into one way or another. And he would turn those fights into forms. So they are fighting forms. They're his fighting forms. So I learned them, and I had to learn them in order to get promoted to the next rank. So I had to learn all 9 of them. There is 9. And before you made black belt, you had to know it. Before I made black belt. Before Corey made black belt, he had to know it. So I just passed that.
You know, that's interesting because I asked Doc that same question. Where did they come from? How did you originate them? He basically talking about They were fighting forms. I
Yeah.
never heard him say that they were fights that he really was in. He just formulated it as a form, but that's exactly what he was saying. And he said that there was some, you may know this person, Johnny Cool or somebody like that. You know a name like Johnny Cool?
Nope. No.
He was telling me that there was this guy, he was good with his Shotokan forms, but he didn't know how to use that style in fighting. So Doc helped him out by showing him the peer forms where you fight multiple attackers, and it's a fighting form, it's a nice flow. And that's exactly what he told me. So with that, tell me, what do you think about the family, you know, the Sanuces family, and those who aspire to learn the forms, and what they should do to try to connect with the masters that know the forms? Why do you think that the forms aren't being pushed in the family?
Well, first of all, those forms are not easy to learn. And I think a lot of people that sees things that are hard to do back away from it. And the second thing is a lot of them don't want to be taught by a woman.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
That is the truth. It's the ego that stands in the way.
Well, you know, that's a shame, because the first person that ever taught me how to walk, how to crawl, how to talk, how to eat was my mother.
That's right. That's
And
right.
for those of you who are religious, everybody loves Jesus. The Muslims love Jesus. The Christians love Jesus. Jesus had a mother, and she taught him. So I don't understand why people, listen to me. Some of the most profound martial arts instructors that I know are women, because they concentrate so deeply on the details. They take their time, and they make sure that the students have the information, and they nurture them. Where we as men, we're like, do this, do this, do that. All right, each one teach one, and we walk off the mat. But a woman nurtures their student. So
right.
with that, here's my next question. In the family of Sanuces, in Sanuces family, we have certain masters that have children. Now me, all my children started off in the martial arts, and they got to yellow belts, blue belts, and then they start playing basketball, football, chasing girls. So I don't have a son who went from white belt to black belt. I had one son who I thought was going to be just like me. He was killed years ago, but he was the one. Now I have a nephew that's a black belt in my dojo. But what I want to know from you, for example, you got Grandmaster Anthony Abdulaziz now. He has a son named Amir. Very good martial artist. He's in the family. We mentioned Lil John Davis. He has a son, Amani. Very nice brother. He's a black belt in the system. Urban's daughter, Zehelia, has been trained by him. And let's take Grandmaster Ronald Duncan. His sons also represent him. But you have a son sitting right next to you who's a professor in Sanuces. How does that make you feel to know, and I'm not assuming that he's going to be your successor. I'm just saying, how does it feel to know that your child, your son, is there to represent you and Doc, and should be the one to carry it on into the future? And you can speak also, Corey. Do you have children? How does that make you feel, Grandmaster, to have a son that's carrying on the work that you've done for many, many years?
Well, that makes me feel very good and very lucky, because a lot of women don't have that.
Right.
I'm proud of how far he's come from the little boy that I raised into a man with many, how can I say, many treasures that I admire about him.
Right.
He's got his own school. He's raising the little ones in the school from 4 years old to 17. So he's following in my footsteps, and I am so proud of him.
Beautiful.
That he's carrying on the Sanuces.
Beautiful. You know, I'm gonna jump in because I just thought about something. Like I said, this is just a conversation. This is not an interview. We're not on TV or nothing.
Right.
But something that you have accomplished, and Professor Corey was right there with you, and I'm sure he had his hand in it. You did something that I've never seen anybody in Sanuces do. Years ago in Philadelphia, you brought your whole team with you, and they did a martial arts demonstration. Now, I've been in the martial arts for over 45 years. I stopped counting. I've been in the martial arts for a long time. Now, Ernie Reyes Jr. is known in the martial arts world for having this great demonstration team with the youth. And they're phenomenal. They're awesome. But when I saw the Sanuces Homestead crew come to Philadelphia and they put on that demonstration, I could not believe how phenomenal and how professional and how beautiful and talented those children were. They were on the same level, in my opinion, as Ernie Reyes Jr. and his top demonstration team. Talk about that demonstration team, and Brother Corey, chime in if you will.
If I could, I always try to give honor to my head, which is Grandmaster Moses Powell, my mom, Grandmaster Veronica Walker. In the demo, in that team, there was a team in Sanuces Rue called the A Team, okay? And that's the team that went and did demonstrations with Doc around the world. Right. The big one is in Madison Square Garden. And
yes, sir.
So Mom was part of that team. I was able to see videos. And one of the highlights, again, was Little John and Sugar Crossing. And I watched them. I studied them. So when I put the team together and gave them their mission to carry out under our instruction, we got to Philadelphia. Yeah, we was 20 deep, I believe. But when I got there, guess who I see about to do a demo? Sugar.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh. So you know, this is like a rookie coming into the NFL about to play against a veteran with a Super Bowl ring. So this was kind of stressful, but you know, having a poised veteran to my left right here and my mom, we were able to just do what we do. And he gave the big pat on the back, you know, and he was honored to know that we're doing it in Florida. And now he's down here with us.
Right. So do you guys have any video clips of them doing a demonstration that you could post on Facebook so the viewing audience can view that, they can see that and enjoy it?
And from Philadelphia?
No, any demonstration that they've done. You should definitely post that on Facebook. I think that people would love that.
Definitely will. And I'll send it to you.
Okay, yes, sir. Okay, you know, so Grandmaster Veronica.
Yeah.
Okay, I need you to dig deep on this one.
Dig deep.
Tell us a story. Oh. Tell us a story about Sanuces and Dr. Moses Powell that, you know, something crazy. Something that most people don't know. You know because you were there. You've seen it. You witnessed this. Just give us a couple stories.
You see him smack up anybody?
No, the only thing that I could give you is his finger lock process. In other words, if you didn't pan up, he could get you in a finger lock so bad I watch him do black belts, third, fourth degree black belts, lock them up, and they be screaming to high heaven, turn me loose. But that's one thing that he was so profound in, was that finger lock.
Respect, yeah.
And that same finger became popular in his rollout, his world-renowned rollouts. Nobody could roll out better than he. And when we learned that, that was the most important part of our class. And that rollout is still going on today through Corey's students right here in Florida.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay. All right. You want to tell us another story? I know you got about 1,000 stories. Give us one more story, and then I'll go to my next question.
Okay, I've got one more story. He took me to Madison Square Garden, and I had to go, and he was going to put me on stage, and I was a yellow belt. So now I went with the team, and
I didn't hear that.
yeah, I went with the team. I was petrified, but I don't know whether it was the Garden, but it was one of those shows that I had to perform in, and I was the only girl, woman, or anyone else that was of that replica that had to perform with a bunch of guys. But I was the star of the team because everybody wanted to see this woman. So there you go. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow.
Oh man, listen, that was a classic story. That was classic. You know, because one of my you just answered one of my questions. I was going to ask you to tell us what was one of the hardest things that Doc ever had you do. What was one of the hardest things he requested of you? But that was pretty tough right there. You had to overcome everything, right?
That was tough.
Okay. So you told us a couple stories. That was good. So you handled that. So let me ask you this: what is your current rank in Sanuces, and how did Doc present or bestow that rank upon you?
Oh my God, when was that?
It's right here. That was in 2004 before he died.
Yes, that was just before he passed away that he gave me my 9th degree black belt. Yeah.
What happened was he was living in Fort Pierce, I believe, at that time. And I had called him up. I was like, Doc, I know you're down here for Chanique's seminar, but I need you to come to the dojo. He said, for what? I said, well, the kids give courtesy to you every day, courtesy to Grandmaster Moses Powell, but they don't know who you are. And you're in town. Can you come? He says, I'll come if you pick me up. I said, okay, got you. I said, so as we driving that same team, I said, the kids are going to do a demonstration for you. He said, all right, yeah, whatever. Because he wasn't really, a lot of people try to do things for him. You know what I mean? And so he got to the dojo and the kids showed out. They showed up, they showed out. And Doc, I would say drop the tear, but I'm not going to say that because he's not here to confirm that or not. But I didn't know that in his pocket, in his briefcase, he had her 9th degree certificate. I mean, and hey,
you know,
that was.
I'm gonna tell you something about that story. I was there. I wasn't at your dojo, but I remember Doc saying, because we did a seminar at Phil Chanique's. Then he went to Jerry Denson's place.
Right.
He did the seminar, and I was there. And he said, I got to go down to Veronica's, but I didn't go. But I remember that time. That's awesome.
Sure.
That's awesome. Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay. So how did you feel, Grandmaster, once you got that Grandmastership?
I felt fantastic. But let me take you probably a couple of years after, or sometime around that. I said to him, I said, Doc, when am I get my 10th degree? He looked at me like, Veronica, are you serious? And walked on. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But that was his funny time. He was a little annoyed with me asking him that now. But sometimes I throw stuff at him, and because it's from me, he'll take it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's right. That's right.
Oh.
Well, like I said, you always say what's on your mind, and that's what I like about you, because you never have to guess what is Grandmaster Veronica thinking, because you're gonna let us know what you think, and I like that. I don't like phony people. I like real people. Doc was real, and you are definitely real. We appreciate that. So let's go into maybe 2 more questions. All right? You all right with that? Can you hang 2 more questions?
I can.
Okay. All right. This is for the women, and this also is for all of the future students and the new students. What legacy do you want to leave behind as a grandmaster in Sanuces, a woman grandmaster? What legacy, how do you want to be remembered? What message do you want to send to the women who are training today in Sanuces? What would you like to say to them?
I would like to say to them,
Sorry.
that this system has gotten me where I am today as far as how I look, how I walk, how I act, how I talk. I look good,
Go
I
ahead.
walk, I talk smart, and I know what I'm doing and saying. So what I'm saying to them is to stay on top of everything. Train for defending yourself against any type of attack, whether it be words, because you have to train your mind on how to react. And whether you be in a circumstance where you have to fight your way out, train. And that way you will be able, trust me, if you learn the Sanuces system or any type of system that you love, you will be able to get out of that circumstance. So I ask all women, train just like you were a man.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful.
Professor.
Yes, sir.
I know she won't mind me telling you. Okay, so my mom is, what, if I'm 51, that means you're 77 years old, right?
That's right.
Made it through everything. And COVID-19 comes. Boom, mom tells me she's positive.
And that's
So, I'm like, okay, I know this is not going to take her out. But because of the training, because of her conditioning, she kicked COVID in the head.
right.
You really wouldn't even know. She had symptoms. She wasn't asymptomatic. She had symptoms. But, by the grace of God, she made it through. And because of the training, because of the structure, because of the building from the ground up, she is here. And I'm so happy. And, I told her she should write this book. So
It's all because of the training, keeping your body in shape and condition. And Sanuces will do it for you. Martial arts will do it for you.
A couple weeks ago, you and I had a conversation, Grandmaster, and you shared with me that you were fighting COVID and that you were going through, but you were going to win. And I said, I know you're going to win. And
right.
I didn't tell anybody because, that's personal, but I'm glad you all shared it, because that question that I presented about what do you have to say to the women? What legacy do you want to leave? The fact that you mentioned that, and you never had a problem with telling people how old you were, because I remember when I first met you, you let everybody know how old you were, because you were doing things at that age that most of us 20 years younger than you couldn't do. And you're still doing it. And you're 77 years young, and you had COVID-19 just a few weeks ago, and you beat it, and here you are today sharing with us how Sanuces and God helped you overcome. Look,
Amen.
that's so awesome. We can actually in the interview now, but I have one more question for you. But that was awesome. And I thank God that you made it through. And I thank God for the example that you have set. And I hope that the women who hear this interview and that are listening take heed to what you just said, because it was powerful. So here we go. Last question.
Wait, Brother James, last statement.
Yes,
Close to the last question. I want them to know that my conditioning, that every evening, 6 days a week, I'm either which is rollerblading, riding the bike. What's the other thing I do?
Your conscious,
Martial arts.
all she does all 9 PF forms, all the shooter striking forms, all the bow staff kata's, all the screaming stick kata. She works out
Every morning. That's how you say.
That, listen, that's what I was looking for. I'm sure that's what they are looking for. You gave up the knowledge, you gave up the advice. It's up to them now to take it and run with it. Because I remember one time I called you and you were on your bike.
Right.
You know, and you rollerblade too?
Yes, sir. And
Wow.
skate. Ice skate.
Ice skate in Florida?
That don't make sense.
Yeah,
right?
we have an ice. We have a down here.
Okay, so here we go. I'm not going to ask you who have you thought about who your successor is going to be, because you got this guy sitting next to you, and to me, it's obvious.
Yeah.
He is you, so he is the success. So we want to give a shout out to Professor Coy for being there with his mother, for his mother, and for the future generation to come. So here's my question. When you talk to different grandmasters, they always say, oh, you know, Doc said a lot of things. Doc did this, Doc did that. You know, Doc told me this, and he told that one this, he gave me this, he gave this one that one. The Doc was a very wise man. And I'm not going to ask you too many questions about Grand Professor V, because I know you train with Grand Professor V as well, but I'm going to save that for part 2, because I got a feeling people going to want to hear more from you. But Grand Professor V, before he left, he documented who his successor was going to be.
Uh-huh.
It's documented. He knew he was leaving, and he documented. Doc was a very wise man. Now, Doc was here. He saw what Professor V did. And although he's Professor V's most popular student, most accomplished student, and it's been told that Professor V made a statement that, Moses, you have surpassed me. But Doc wasn't arrogant, and he would never go back to V-Jitsu and say, look, I'm taking over. I'm in charge now. He didn't do that. He left Professor V, started Sanuces, and he got a blessing from Professor V to do that.
Right.
But my question to you, Grandmaster Veronica, is he saw what Professor V did. Why do you think that Dr. Moses Powell never documented who his successor is or would be?
Why do I think he never did that? Now, the only thing that I could say is he never thought he was going anywhere. It was just him. So I don't think he even gave it a thought about making a successor.
Do you think, because I interviewed other grandmasters. One grandmaster,
he never created a position. So if you never create a position for anyone to take over, then everybody has to do what they do. And that's exactly what happened.
yes, ma'am.
Everybody did their thing.
Okay. Now, I interviewed Professor Urban, Hassan Khalid, and Professor Scott Stewart from Jiu-Jitsu. And when I asked Professor Urban that question, Professor Urban said that if you took all of Doc Grandmasters and put them in a room and questioned them, maybe you'll get a hint of what was on Doc's mind and what Sanuces was all about. And then he said that if Doc took all his Grandmasters and said, I want you all to do this, he said they all would do the same thing, but they would do it in 15 different ways. If you have 15 Grandmasters, they're going to do what he wants, but they'll all do it differently.
That was my point.
Say again, Corey?
That was my point with me and Zahelia doing the peer form.
Right.
But
So
did the same thing, but a different flow. We did his thing, but it was done differently.
absolutely, absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So Grandmaster Veronica, what advice do you have for the other Grandmasters as far as taking that which Doc gave them and coming together to share so we all can grow together?
Well, my question would be, who would be the head of them coming together? They would come.
Listen, I'm glad you said that. And
Yeah.
I know this is not, you're not interviewing me, but I'm gonna say this. A while back, we had a meeting. It was a conference call. I don't know if you were on the call. It was years ago. And they were talking about, we got to come together and we got to give this thing that we do a new name. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. First of all, Sanuces is the name. And what we need to do, when Doc was here, we all came together. We had differences. Some of us didn't like each other, but we came together and we trained. We exchanged information. We broke bread. We ate. And after that, and we showed respect. And Doc was there. He called us and brought us together. We went back to our respective homes and we did what we do in our state or city. So if Doc was able to bring us together and we had differences then all we need to do is keep Moses Powell, Dr. Moses Powell, as the head and the focal point, and come together with our differences, with our dislike, put Sanuces on the map and make it shine for the whole martial arts world and go back to our states and do what we do. So I don't think that it has to be one person to be in charge of that group. Just somebody make the call. Let's come together. We've done it in Philadelphia, in Delaware. Meet Saifullah and I brought all the family together. They've done it in New York. They did it one time in Florida. Everybody comes together, share the information. Doc's the head, Doc's the focal point, and we keep Sanuces alive. In Aikido, we have Osensei Wishiba. All the different Aikido schools, they all point back to Wishiba. In Shotokan and different martial arts, you have Funakoshi, and you have all these great masters. They may do the forms differently, but they still point back to the founder of the system. And I don't understand why. What's wrong with Moses Powell? That's my question. He's the founder. He's the head. If we love him like we should be about doing his business, which is Sanuces, which keeps him as the focal point. Now, I know I've said a lot, but
wow. That's wow.
That's my position.
You have anything?
Another question?
No, he says, what did the Grandmaster have to do to come together? What do you think?
Well, like you said, we have come together, and when they leave, everybody do their own thing. But see, there's one thing that we can't come together on, and that's what Dr. Powell created that will never die, and that's the peer forms.
Well,
nobody.
I love that. You know I love that, right? So I'm coming down to Florida. I'm not coming right now. I'm going to get on a plane and I'm coming to Florida, because we talked about this a long time ago when we were at Madison Square Garden at that Hall of Fame. I want to come to Florida, and I want you, Grandmaster Veronica, to do the peer forms the way Doc gave them to you. Break them down, explain it. Then I would like to do them the way he gave them to me and break it down the way he gave it to me. And then we share with everybody the original and the modified way, and still we represent Doc's movement. And then once we do that, maybe people will start knocking at your door, humbling themselves, saying, please teach me these forms, because this is a missing link in my Sanuces. What you think?
Well, the only thing I can say is it would be left up to God if I'm still here when that does happen, because I don't see it.
Wow. Well, why don't you think they would want to do that? I mean, because
I'm looking at all the past years that we have done this. We have come together. Seifullah, John. I mean,
Hassan, Anthony, Bill McLeod, the big heads.
Yeah, they're too. Let me see. How do I put that? I'm too small for them.
Wow.
Bottom line.
That's heavy.
Well, let me say this.
I'm sorry, that was heavy. If I can elaborate on too small. All right. Only because, again, I witnessed, okay? I witnessed this lady teach, who is now known to the Timmy world as Dr. Trinique or Grandmaster Trinique, or I've witnessed her teach Trinique, but there's never been told. Okay. There's so many others. Wali Muhammad, that was teach. Which one I took black belt? Oh my God. Just so many different that came up under her, but don't recognize her the way it should be done. And like I said, I've always given homage to the head. Okay, starts with God first, Doc Powell second, Grandmaster Veronica third. Once people become a humble student, remember that we are all white belts, which is just a little darker than average. Then we can come together. But people are true. I cannot get Anthony Muhammad on the phone. Why? Aziz, I don't know why. Grandmaster Aziz, I can't get you on the phone. But there's so many things I want to talk. I can call Bill McLeod. I can call Hassan Khalid. I can call you. There's certain others I can't. I guess, like I said, not big enough. And, it's going to take someone or something to open those lines of communication. It starts with communication, and we're open.
Their heads are up there, and I can't climb that high. You got to come.
I'll say this in closing. God is above all.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all can agree to that. God is above all.
Exactly.
And about 3 weeks ago to a month ago, I lost my oldest brother, and he happened to be, Grandmaster, 77 years old. And that's what sparked me to do these interviews, because it's like, hey, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
That's right. Right.
Now, I'm able to talk to most of the masters. Now, some people that I've reached out to do interviews, they haven't responded back to me. They just, I don't know if they ignore me or they just don't have time. However, like I said, I've interviewed Professor Urban, Hassan Khalid, Professor Scott, Grandmaster Veronica, and I've been in communication with Grandmaster Anthony Abdulaziz, and he agreed to do an interview with me, and it's coming soon. Professor Bill, you know how he is. You gotta sneak up on him put handcuffs on him, but I'm close enough to do that with him.
Yes.
But I want to say this. I appreciate you, Grandmaster Veronica. I thank God for you. I thank you for being open. I appreciate what you've always done with the peer forums. I always speak your name, and I'll say this on record. You were doing the peer forums before I even knew who Moses Powell was. So you will always be the queen of the peers, as far as I'm concerned. I appreciate you. I thank you. I love you. I'm coming down there. We're going to have a good time. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure the people who see and hear this interview are going to thank you, and they're going to want to hear more from you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
I love you, Professor James. You are a sweetheart. I wish I could hug you.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Professor Corey, I'll be calling you. Grandmaster Veronica, I'll be calling you.
He said he'll be
And
cool.
I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. Thank you, Professor, for helping out with this interview. And I appreciate you all, and I'll be down there soon. That's my word.
All right.
Okay.
Each one?
Word.
Hey.
Each one.
Wait.
Love you.
Wait.
Peace.
You can take
Yes,
me.
ma'am. Say it again, ma'am.
I said you can send for me to come up there.
Amtrak, right?
Yeah, right.
The Grandmaster Veronica don't get on no airplanes. Okay, Amtrak is fine with me. I know I gotta wait until the springtime for that, right? Because you don't come up here when it's snowing.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for this interview. Appreciate it. Us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, God.